Hi, everybody. I'm Taryn. We've got Mystery here and Brandon on the other end of the line from Shepherd, Montana.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Taryn.
How are you, Brandon?
Good.
How are you doing? So it's been pretty darn hot over here at the ranch, and horses have been pretty lazy and miserable, so they've been kind of just staying down by the river to escape the heat. So we've had a couple practices since our last session, and do a little recap. Had a little bit of a frustrating session last week with Mystery kind of running through me and being really reactive. We talked about making this round pen smaller, so we are just about done with Pony Club. So I think we're just gonna next week we have trail ride. So after today, we're going to make this round pen smaller, and hopefully that will help some of our issues.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and well, just so we kind of recap a little bit, and you and I talked about this long ago, not on camera, but one of those things about being as a trainer, what you need to do, and sometimes some of the things that go wrong. And so we can recap and see what was going on. And for those who were watching last week and want to come back to this one, in the archives, I was kind of tough on you last week, because, well, we did a couple things. One was we gave Mystery a chance to, since he'd had a lot of the time off, a week or so off, circumstances being what they were, it was a good chance to recap and see where he was at, how much of his training really stuck, and how much was kind of superficial, and we got a good idea about that. But we've got, and I know it's not perfect on facilities wise, because you guys are trying to do a lot of different things where I've got the luxury where I don't have something else going on with another group that needs the size of the corral. Early on we talked about the size of this and how much it makes it easier for you to be able to really control that horse and make sure that the training is really kind of set in his mind that he doesn't have the ability to push you around or to try anything. And we get to a point where with this kind of the diagnostics of how much of this has stuck in his training, that it sets you up a little bit for failure there that's watching, is that, I said, I was kind of tough on you, and it's all out of love because I want you to be successful. I don't want you to get hurt. And what most people don't realize outside of the training area is that horse that's standing in front of you that you're moving is a product that's going to follow you for the rest of that horse's life. And if someone gets hurt because we have a hole in the training, specifically to that, because we didn't do a really good job, that can be like, hey, she did that. This is a horse that Taryn trained, so Taryn doesn't train horses real well. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's true, but so you have to protect yourself and the horse and anybody else in the future that you don't even ever possibly even meet that could get on this horse, and that base training, base responsibility of somebody not getting hurt, it falls upon you. So, and you haven't been on his back yet. We've been up on him on his sides, but that is really a super, super important and a very serious side to training horses that I don't think most people fully understand. People will have a horse that there's something wrong with, and it may not be caused by the trainer. It can be caused by themselves, but guess who they tend to blame? It's not the horse, and it's not necessarily themselves. It's usually themselves last. So I say that for people's benefit. And I know we talked about this, I think, a year ago when we first started with this conception, that how important and how serious this is as far as a product and what you do, and how you'll touch people that you'll never meet through that horse. So the horse has got to be as sound as absolutely possible. And I didn't anticipate necessarily that he would react quite the way he did on some of the training. I thought, or on some of the exercises, I thought he was going to be better, especially with the ropes, because he had done so well but when you started flipping the rope around a little bit and then he ran off on a smaller corral, which, you know, we talked about a couple of times before. So, well, this is really kind of a big corral for this. We really need that small corral. Sometimes you have to experience that failure. And when I saw that happen, I thought, well, we could stop this right now and say, oh, no, we need to do that. But I thought in my own head at the time, I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and do this. And if it fails, which it looked like to me like it would, then it has for you a frame of reference so that you learn. And I know your hand got the rope ripped through it a couple of times. I hope it didn't hurt too much. I know it's a rope burn is a rope burn, but experiential learning, not only for the horse, all of their learning is experiential. And some of yours is, I can tell you, like we're doing now, what's going on, and have you do that, and you can be successful or, you know, marginally successful, depending on how much finesse it takes to do it. But sometimes that experiential learning has to just take place, even if and a lot of times that learning really takes precedent and really it gets ingrained if it is a failure, kind of like it was. So I needed to kind of let you fail a little bit, and I'm not trying to be mean to you or for the viewers to, you know, that we're not having some kind of an issue with each other. It's a matter of this is a learning moment that isn't necessarily all positive, because it will happen. Anyway, that's my long deal about kind of a frame of reference of where we were last week and why we were at where we were. And you know, kind of let people know that you saw what you saw, because this is not scripted. You and I are doing this in real time, and so at those moments, I'm not going to stop everything necessarily. It's like, okay, she can learn from this, and that's part of me being, you know, kind of the hard heart and let you fail a little bit, but you will learn from that. Oh, good job! I see you running up to you. Excellent. So I think
it helps a lot for me to, like you're saying, to experience it, see it, feel the frustration, some fear and heightened anxiety, and then realize that I've allowed that to happen, and now I really know what I need to do. And just drove you home, and yeah, I wouldn't say that you were being mean, but maybe you felt that way. But I sometimes you need some blunt truth sometimes.
I saw a quote by somebody. It was just the other day. It says that everybody appreciates honesty until it's directed towards them. Then you're just a jerk, you know. But no, and I think it's important that folks understand that, again, this is not scripted. This is something that we can't script, and that's part of the beauty of this. And it's a learner for all of us. But for you to do that and me kind of thump on your ego a little bit like this, and we've all got an ego. We try not to let it interfere, but it's very brave of you to do this, and I cannot stress enough how important that is and how much I appreciate that, because I've been where you're at. It's not fun to be in front of an audience and things not work well. You know, you always want them to work right and well, but sometimes those things are as big or better of a learner for you or the horse or everybody than is if it went perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, he's doing better now, and I've tried something different the other day with the rope. Instead of saddling him, I just used the rope on his halter.
Okay.
And that may or may not be the right thing to do, but I felt like it just gave me that little extra control, that extra edge, and then I think probably helped me more than it helped him, but made me feel a little bit more comfortable that I had control of his head, and I think it was easier to drive home the lesson and what we were doing and what I wanted of him, because he didn't have as big of an opportunity to just take off.
Okay. And I appreciate where you're at there, and I think part of that was mainly on, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit of trying to prevent any frustration or trying to stop something before it happens. And you're right, you'll have more physical control, but you won't necessarily have the mental control that you've got on him, because he knows, I'm not going anywhere. Hey, could you do something for me?
Yeah.
Okay. I see you're, at his head there. Could you step back halfway between the saddle and him? There you go. Stop right there. Go forward about 2 steps. Okay. Now step to the left about 1.5 steps. And there you go. Okay. Now turn 90 degrees to the right. Okay. How far away are we from each other?
Well, now we're right next to each other.
Right. Okay. Here's my point. You complied absolutely with every request I made right there, and I'm not there to do that.
Oh, I see. You and I.
How much control did I have over your movement?
Every bit of control.
Every bit, because you're listening and you're willing to help and do what I ask. Okay. So if I would have went to you and was standing outside the corral and walked in there and grabbed you by the shoulders and then moved you physically without you really resisting, look how much effort I still had to put into that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the difference between having a lead on him, and I'm not saying you did anything wrong, and I know where you're at with this, because you're just trying to stave off and make things go right, and hopefully he will comply with that, and he did, but you just don't quite have the mental control that you would have, and that's what the training is. The better training, or more higher functioning training, is about. It's about that mental control of them than is the physical control, because again, you're 101 pounds, right? And there isn't anything that you can do to really stop him with his 950 1,000 pound body. They can push right through it. So it's about mental control, not so much the physical control.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where I was at. Yes, there are times when you need to do what you need to do, but don't rely on that. You're going to have to push through the mental part and him not complying in order for you to get really good depth of control there on him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So I think let's do just exactly what you're doing. Let's put him through the paces again and see where you were successful this week and what more you needed to work on. This is ultimately, it's a good thing that these things happen, because it gives us a chance to fix or to really alter the non-compliance, and you can fix, or when I say fix, I mean solidify the really good training that's going on, the good behavior. Good.
So good boy.
Good job, Tim. You're sticking with it, and you're not letting him get away from you too much. You're not letting him get away halfway around the arena or that corral before you stop and correct him. That's perfect. You're doing really, really well that way.
Good boy. Boy. I think one of the problems that we've ran into is how he's learned to be so comfortable with me and seek comfort and confide in me. And when we started the other day doing the rope exercises again, he was practically running off.
Yeah.
Practically running me over and throwing his shoulder and and not respecting my space.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why I think it's, early on when we first started working in the round corral and just doing the turns, and I said, a lot of people just want the horse to turn towards them and not away from them, and I want them to do both. And that's precisely the reason why, is when they get upset and they try to come at you for comfort because they're so used to coming towards you and not away from you, you've got to have that tool in order to be able to send them away. And when you just throwing your hand up like you're doing right there and pushing him, that sends him away. And if you can really get that horse to understand that that's what you want, that's going to keep you safe. And that is exactly the reason for that, because you never know when you have to send a horse away from you in order to keep yourself safe.
So just struggle with these turns on the haunch. I have learned something about Tennessee walkers yesterday.
Okay.
Riding Raz, and how when I'm riding him, we go from a stop to a walk, and he just kind of launches forward. And I just had this really dumb aha moment that they have so much of a stride that it probably feels more like he's launching forward when really he's just taking a normal step. But that's kind of why I feel like it's so hard for me to do these turns on the haunch, because he can step so far, I can hardly keep up with him.
Yeah. You know, do you remember it was last fall when you and I took the ride down in the riparian area, and I think you were on Lonza, right?
Yep.
And I believe I said, because I almost always say this with everybody who's fairly new to getting them into gait, is that this horse is going to feel like it's taking off on you because it's going to speed up really fast and you think it's going to take off. Don't worry about that. Just trust it that it's going to just speed up a bit, and then you can always pull them back down. So, yeah, that's a great aha moment that you had to kind of experience for yourself. Kind of the same thing we're talking about, actually. Now you see that the light comes on, you're like, oh, my God, yeah, they're just taking off. I've been holding this horse back a little bit.
Yeah, I still don't know quite what to do about it as far as his turn, because he gets in front of me, and then I feel like I'm running to catch up.
Yeah.
He's just about to pass me, and then he did.
And that's kind of the nature of turning them on their hinds like this, is that, yeah, you have to, just like you're doing, you're staying in front, you have to move a lot faster because you're on the outside of that arc, on the outside of the circle, instead of being on the inside. Because he's having to, when you're turning him on his fours and that hind end is moving around, you're kind of standing in the middle of him and he's working that hind end around you. And so when you're on the front like that, yeah, you have to walk a lot faster to stay ahead of him, to get him to keep from, or to get him to move away from you and you around him. So that's kind of the nature of that too. So like when you're turning right there, if you're going to try to get him to turn on his hinds, then you're going to need to get, way out in front of him. Now walk towards his shoulder and towards his head. There you go. Yep, that's it. And it just feels like you're moving too fast and too hard to have to put that much effort in, but that's the way it is.
Okay.
It's just the physics of being on the inside of a turn or on the outside of a turn for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like you're having to put way more effort into this than to get him to do what you want, but it's just normal.
A little human legs can't keep up with you, buddy.
There you go. Very good.
It's harder this way.
It is a little harder. He's a little stickier there, isn't he?
Yep. I can get 2 really good steps in, and then all of a sudden he's past me. Well,
and part of that is even though he's not as comfortable with you over there, he's a little more sensitive on that side. And so he tends to move a little easier, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Good boy.
There, that's better.
And so maybe I just take it 1 or 2 steps at a time and then try to throw in an extra one.
That's exactly right. And it just slows him up. There you go. Yeah. And try not to let him go forward like that. Kind of, he's trying to step kind of around you a little bit. Yeah. There you go. And it's there. That's better. That's better. And what you're going to do is you're just going to desensitize that side a little bit and get him more comfortable without him having that kind of that more of a flight response. It's not really a flight response. It's just that he's more sensitive to moving away from you. And see, what he's doing is he's getting in front of you, that shoulder, so that he doesn't have to move quite as fast either. He's figured that out, that, hey, if I get her back behind me, we're not going to move at all.
So my guess is that practicing backing him up on this side is going to help us a lot.
It can, and if you, and this is one of those times where if you need to, just like you're doing, you kind of reach up, grabbing that halter a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's an application for that physical control until you can get the mental control, and then you can take the physical away. And because it's such a low stakes failure here, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
And now I'm telling you opposite of what we talked about earlier, right? But it's all in the context and the application of what you're doing.
Yeah, I understand. Here he's not necessarily blowing through me or being reactive. He's just pushing just a little.
Yeah, that's right. And what you can do if it was me standing there is I would put the halter on him and move him around you without putting any pressure on the halter rope. And when he starts to move away from you, then pull him back, physically just give him a sharp whoa with it, and then have him comply with you, and then you start over again.
Okay.
And this is really good stuff, actually. I mean, this is the part where the training is, from a third-party view, looks really, really boring. But this is super important because you're trying to keep him from pushing you. Okay, so don't put any pressure on the halter or on the lead. Just do what you were going to do, walk around like you were getting him to do before. There you go. And if he starts to take off, then stop him. There you go. Very good. Much better. There you go. Good job. You feel that? All of a sudden, you don't have to use near as much of the halter control to get him to comply.
Yeah, I'm using less and less in each step.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly what I want you to do. So that now you're getting more of the mental control, and you may have to have a little more repetition on this side to do that. But look how now his body is not moving away from you. It's his head that's moving away from you, and that's what you want to have happen. Very good.
Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, I feel, I guess one of my minor frustrations is that I haven't been able to work with him as not often lately as I want to. And so we have kind of seen some of those holes, but on the same note, I feel a little bit better that has happened because, like you say, I do see the holes, I see exactly where I need to go back. And so even though we're not going as fast as we want to go, it's really clear to me what I need to fine tune. And
yeah.
I feel like it's going to push us forward a lot faster and a lot easier in the future.
Yeah, and that's it. You're spot on, because it's not that you're not being able to evaluate him when you can't work with him. It's an opportunity really to find where there's an issue that you need to work on. And so always look for that positive part of what we've got here. Why are we struggling here? Oh, this is why, so I need to fix that. And this is just an intensive part of that with the training. This is not something that ever goes away, because those horses at some point are all going to, try to be a little bit more dominant or get away with what they can, or be a little pushy, because it's just their nature and their herd dynamic to do that, because they get more benefits. They get to make decisions. So yeah, never feel bad about going backwards on something or not having quite the response that you wanted, because now it's an opportunity to work on them and make them better. Oftentimes those horses that are really difficult on the ground, that take a lot longer to work in the groundwork, and you go, oh my God, I don't know if this horse is going to amount to anything, or it's just, this is really bad. They just don't seem to learn. And then once they get over that, those are the horses, when you get on their back, half of the training is done. All you're doing then is just getting some experience to them and teaching them to rein and stop, turn, do some of the rope work like we do, if that's what you do, and some trail work, because all of the really hard stuff at that point, you're going beyond what other horses do because you had to.
That makes sense. Good boy.
There you go.
Good boy. So how do you anticipate that his minor pushiness is going to translate into other aspects of our training, like when I start riding him? Do you think he'll revert back to that and try again in the saddle? Or what are the different things that I can expect?
Yes, and that's one of those, it's kind of a law, to me, I call it, like one of your laws of horsemanship, that they are always going to try to vie for a little bit of control, always. And so all of the stuff that you're doing with them on the ground is a precursor to getting on them, on their back and doing the same things, but they will act like at times like, oh, I've never done this before. I have no idea what you're asking. So there's always that law of they will continue to push and continue to try to get away with what they can, always. So that's why it's so important that you don't allow them to do that. And when they do make a breakthrough like that, you have to do it not just once, but then repetitively. And you have to be much, much more aware of the very small things that they're doing to try to push you, like taking a step in the wrong direction. A single step can mean a lot because they know what they're doing. And if you look around you, all of these other horses are probably just standing there, right? They're not putting out any energy to do anything. That's not purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're expending energy, and that is moving a foot for a purpose of theirs, it isn't just because it happens to do it because the world tilted and they're catching their balance a little bit. It's purposeful for them. If they're putting energy into doing something, it's for their benefit.
Okay.
So you always have to be much, much more aware of what this horse is doing and what the mental thought behind it is. And that's your higher level of horsemanship where you're thinking and evaluating the entire time you're with them. And it's work. It's mental work on your part.
Boy. Oh, well, I feel like as far as going through the paces, I feel pretty good about it. And I know I need to work more on turning him, but he's doing a lot better with me running up to him, especially on his offside. He's stopping really well. He's turning pretty darn well. I feel like he's at probably 90% with that.
Good. Did you struggle with your sessions this week a little bit early on?
With him not turning or with him taking a couple extra steps, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And now all you're doing is just validating what I just talked about. And then if you stop that or get the behavior you want as quickly as possible, and when they try it again, stop it immediately and correct them. Pretty soon they're going to go, you know what? I just put energy into something I'm getting nowhere with. And so there's any reason to even do that. That's creating those training boundaries.
Boy.
So I'm gonna just say, let's have you kind of work with him. And I know you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do now? Because I'm afraid this thing might go south on us. Right? So don't worry about that. Let's go ahead and saddle him and just kind of progress on. We've only got 20 minutes left, but it's good to just get to another point. And this is about where we got last time with the saddle on him and then the rope on him, and then things went clear out to Pluto.
Okay. We've got a tractor coming, so sometimes he reacts, and then sometimes he pleasantly surprises us with no reaction.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the tractor going by, that to me is not an obstacle. That's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have these open sides on this corral, so that his attention can be diverted easily. And then you have the ability to maintain his attention. And when you can do that in spite of what's going on around, then you're really getting into their mind and the control there. I was riding, a couple 3-4 days ago, a couple miles away from home, and there's a neighbor, an older gentleman that's basically retired. His son has the ranch now, or their ranch that borders us, and he's got his dog out walking early of a morning. It was just a beautiful morning, about 7 in the morning, where it was pretty cool. And his dog come running at this horse that I've only got about a dozen rides on, and my horse just faced him and tried to turn and run, and I wouldn't let him turn. I kept his head focused towards this dog, and he was watching the gentleman. The dog, of course, was closer, and he just tried everything he could to get away because this dog was going to eat him. Well, I just stopped, let him do it, and this gentleman says, "Man, I'm really sorry about that." And I go, No, don't worry about it, Joe. This is exactly a training opportunity. This is the stuff that you can't make up. This is why you're out and out about like this, because it's an opportunity for you to control this horse, reassure him, do the right thing, and not let him turn away and run away. And they learn to trust you that, hey, this dog didn't eat me, this person didn't eat me. Life is good. Is it fun to do it? No, it's not, because your adrenaline is up a little bit. You're trying to control yourself and control this, 1,100-pound animal that could potentially, hurt you. So it's not easy, but it's a good opportunity. So never, ever worry about stuff around you. What you do need to worry about is that you can control it safely as they're learning about it.
Good boy. So back to the size of the round corral would be an example of controlling him in those situations.
Yeah, and it isn't so much the control of an external thing, it's you being the external component there, or the ropes, or something different new. Oh, that's pretty good. He kind of shied a little bit, but he stood in place. His head is up. He's aware. All good stuff that will come down. He will get over this. It's just things that need to take place. And again, his neck comes out of his shoulders fairly high anyway. That's just kind of the way his build is.
Yeah, he's always just drafting it.
Yep. But he did not move any one of those 4 feet away from where you had him when you first started.
Boy. Good boy. Oh, you're doing a lot better at not walking off.
That's good. That's all mental control on you, and you're the one that's done that. Don't discount what you do and those small, tiny little progressive steps to get what you want. You're like any kind of progressive type of training. All you're doing is you're boiling the frog slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so recognize those very small wins or the behavioral changes for what they are. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that, especially when you're greedy like you and I are. You want these giant changes that work forever, and that's not always the way it works.
I never thought I was a greedy person until I started working with.
Yeah, it's all in context, and they'll bring out the best and the worst in you sometimes too. When everything's looking good, it's great. I had some feedback from my oldest son. Kalen, Kalen. He was there at the clinic, and we were branding on Thursday, and we had to move little bunches of cows here and there and separate cows from calves, and we had to move horses over this pen and over in this pasture, and we had an idea what needed to be done. And he got frustrated because we had, a list of things that we had to do. Is like those puzzle pieces where you move the numbers and you only got one slot to move them because we had so many different groups. I had a couple different herds of yearlings, and then some with cows, and then I had some bulls, and then cows with calves, and it was just a giant puzzle. And of course, I'm not always that good about the long-term plan. And he said, finally, he got frustrated. He says, you communicate just fine with horses, but sometimes with people you suck. And I needed to hear that. It's like, you can't read my mind, even though I think sometimes that you work with somebody long enough, and you can just, you don't even have to communicate because you just know what needs to be done. And that was kind of funny, and it was I could see the frustration on him. Of course, we got all these people helping us, and they kind of giggled and laughed a little bit, and it kind of eased the tension. But That's the same thing that happens here. You don't always communicate the best, so you have to look for those very small wins of communication that is repetitive, that you're doing it over and over and you're doing it right. And when you're not doing it right, recognize it, that, hey, maybe this is me too. That isn't necessarily the horse. It could be me. Taryn, one of the big things I see with you and him is when we first started working, is he is much more calm and quiet with your close, tight presence. That's a good thing.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm looking at big picture stuff here now where, you know, he might feel a little bit sticky to move because he's a little harder to move. But you know what? That beats the alternative. Where was he before? Where you had to be very careful about just approaching him, right?
That's true. When he first came here, it was even just petting him was, you know, you didn't know if he was going to blow up or not. Not that he's dangerous. I've never felt like he's a dangerous horse. But
no, but that's just
been that change.
Well, and you don't see that, you know, over, you know, the time that you spend with them, you don't always see those changes. And so I think that's why it's important to maybe point this out to you, is look at the progress that you've made on him at this point. It's huge, and you don't recognize it because you're also part of this boiling the frog slow in this progressive training, is that you don't always recognize the big picture and getting from the start to where you're at now and how much headway you've truly made.
Yeah, it's hard. It's easy to become narrow-minded.
It is, and so focused, like you're looking through a paper towel roll, that you don't see everything around that, only what you're working on at the time. And that is so important that you step back and see, okay, what am I doing right? Because it can be very, very frustrating to not be able to see that part. And for all of us, especially in the training portion of this, you don't realize how much good you're doing. And the potential to do poor or to allow poor activity or poor behavior is so big that when things are right, you don't really recognize it for that. So that's, you know, always keep that in mind too. You have to keep the short vision and the big picture at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Good boy.
Yeah, good. Now here's something that, you know, you're doing a little bit of lateral flexion there and stretching his neck out and just getting him to stand without turning. There you go. Give into that bit. That's good. That's good stuff, because what you're doing is you're prepping him. Not only are you going back to the reining, you're prepping him for when you need to turn him, and you're going to, you know, stretch his neck muscles. There you go. Good. And have him turn with you on the ground, and it's going to be different when you're on his back.
Come on, buddy. Up. Since I can't move now.
Yeah. There again, a really good example of how you have progressed in the training to the point where now it's almost difficult sometimes to get him to move away from you.
Good boy.
Very good.
Good boy. It's interesting. I haven't experienced this with many horses, but we talk about using our energy and having that mental control, and I've always noticed that in most scenarios, maybe not the rope scenario, but in most scenarios, I feel like I have more control when I'm not touching him. And all of a sudden, when I touch him to back up or pull on his reins to back up, all of a sudden he kind of deadens out, and I can't get him to do anything anymore. But if I use my energy and voice commands, then all of a sudden he kind of reacts a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's right. And if you're using that energy of your body and you're manipulating that in yourself, and you put that together with your physical, just like you're doing now, using a cue, and then you push that energy out of your chest, and then look where he did. He didn't move forward. He moved away from you. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're pushing that energy out of your body. They feel that. They feel that with each other. Heck, we feel it at an unconscious level. We don't even realize it. But that's how we interact with each other so much. And we've done some of these exercises with the using cues and your body. I think we touched on a little bit of that in the clinic when I was there, a week and a half ago. Or has that been 2.5? Oh my goodness, I don't remember. It's been, the days just fly by, don't they?
No, it seems like just yesterday you're here.
I know. How do you feel about putting the drive lines on him? Are you at a point with him that, have you been doing that?
I played the fifth.
I can hear the hesitation. I can hear the hesitation in your voice.
I am more than willing to do it, but no, I have been really bad about practicing with him.
Okay. Let's do this. Since it's been a while, and as slow as he is, and you're getting some warmth there, and here's some tips that I use at times too. When I want this horse to slow down, or I need him to slow down, and it's starting to get hot for you over there right now, it's starting to get hot here, I will use that heat. Use your environment to your advantage. He doesn't want to move any faster than he needs to, right?
Yeah.
You can use that to kind of keep him slowed down. Now, here's the flip side of that. If he gets really annoyed with it and then he blows up, then you've got a problem you've created.
Yeah.
So I will use my environmental conditions depending on what I want to do. The first few times I'm on this horse's back, maybe the first half a dozen times, I want to really control my environment. I don't want wind. I don't want any, just like your tractor going by. If you'd have been on him for the first time and that tractor would have went by, you potentially could have had him just try to jump outside of that corral. It's about the context of what you're doing and what they're doing. Like I said before, you can do the same thing with him every day of his life when you're on the ground. But the moment you jump on his back, it's a whole new world to him. So I want to control that environment, and then I will use the environment. We get wind over here, and I will wait and ride them, and then when the conditions are the best for me. But when it comes to really needing to put this horse through some tests, yeah, I'm gonna get on him when it's a really windy day, and the more wind the better, because I need them to be able to trust me that we're going to be safe, because now I've taken 2 of their 3 senses that away from them that they use for survival. They can't smell as well when the wind is blowing, and they can't hear as well. All they have is their sight, and their heads come up, they look around, they're flighty, and that's why. So I would just there you go.
So this has been the biggest struggle after doing the rope work and wrapping him up is now he anticipates that me walking around him with rope means he's going to start turning.
Okay, here's what you can do. Just grab the rope there. Okay, you did it. You made it.
Well, I'm surprised.
I liked
it.
But you did. You were slowed. You kept your hand on him and you kept him slowed down. You dropped your energy, right? You're just trying to get him to just not move. So you at an unconscious level, you dropped your energy as well to try to control him.
That's true. I didn't notice that, but I did.
Yeah, think about that all the time, what you're doing with your own body. All right, so the first thing when you get this all hooked up, the first thing you're going to do is just ask him to back. There you go.
He doesn't take a step until his head's practically between his knees.
Well, and that's normal. That's very, very normal, because you don't see them really step backwards quite like we're asking them to do, unless they have to for some reason. So when you pull and then release, pull and release, there you go. And yeah, he's gonna get frustrated maybe, and a lot of times they'll paw the ground. It's just frustration. There you go.
Good boy.
Now you're there. Now, instead of just driving him straight away, I would turn him in a circle to control his forward movement. and then just bump, just pull and release, pull and release. There you go. See how he come right around when you bumped him a little bit?
Yeah.
And then release. It's so important to release that bit so that he will respond to you and not take the bit from you. Remember how in the clinic we had some horses that were pushing into the bit, but the more we pulled and then released so they didn't have anything to push on, they quit searching for that pressure. And that's what we want to do, is maintain a really nice light touch on the horse's mouth by touching it and getting away from it, not just touching it and holding it. There you go. Good. And yeah, and I wouldn't make him move much faster than what he's doing. We'll get to that. When you get a smaller corral, we'll go back to the driving a little bit, and we'll get a little bit more speed out of him too, but we'll be able to control it much better. But this is not bad for you. Now you kind of got the anxiety in yourself worked down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, believe it or not, this last few minutes is as much for you as it is for him.
Okay. You can tell I'm scarred from. I haven't done enough work. I just need to get back in the swing of it and not anticipate that it's going to be like it was last time.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be, and sometimes it can be like, oh, okay, I lived through that. It wasn't a big deal.
Good
there you
boy.
Go.
You're going to have to step back because I can't go any further. Good boy.
There we go. And if you get him, you're kind of doing some figure eights and circles there, and that's perfect. But when you get him in the center of the corral and stop and try to get a back out of him just as soon as possible. There, like that. Excellent job.
Good.
Very
boy.
good. Okay, now reward him. So just stop and then just walk up to the side of him and pet him. Get up there on his head. There you go. Did it again.
Boy.
Good. And really reward him for that.
Good boy. Good.
Very good. Very good. And do that one more time. Do another figure eight. Stop. Back up a few, 3-4 steps, and then go to his offside and praise him on that side. And you're going to be done for the day.
Okay.
So what we're doing, and I think you figured this out. You already know this because you kind of mentioned it before about you being scarred, is that we're kind of going back a little bit here, and we're taking a chance on this, this little bigger corral, which we want to get to anyway, and we're going to want to drive him out in the larger arena before we're done. But right now we're just testing and kind of going back and saying, hey, we can be successful at this, and then stop. There you go. Very good. Lightly pull, light, and then let him go. There you go. There. Look, now he's just dropping his head. Okay, yeah. You feel how he's much lighter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because you're not hanging on to his head. And sometimes when you're driving, you have to. There's not much you can do about that. But you try to minimize it as much as possible.
Boy.
Good job. We're out of time. And I think that this is a good spot you've kind of went back to, and we're going to be able to kind of control our environment with a little bit smaller corral, and we'll work in it a little bit, and then we're gonna work on getting up and down off of his sides and stuff too. So until we get a smaller corral, let's just kind of hang off and do what you're doing. Keep progressing. I think you know what you need to do. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, but you tell me what you need to do for this next week.
I want to really hone in on turning him on the haunch so he's not walking through me anymore or past me.
Yes.
I want to drive him some more and maybe work up to a higher speed, but make sure that it's controlled.
Yes.
Because we don't do very well when we're reactive.
Right, that's right. And I would do that. I would wait until when you start getting a little higher speed with that, wait until you've got that corral put down to, when it's 8 panels and a smaller corral, so that you can truly control him without losing that rein, and you can stop him.
And then lastly, I want to go back to some stacking, just because I think that's really good for him. And he tends to, as we do better, it seems like that's the most consistent thing that starts going downhill is him being reactive to that.
Yeah, his skills tend to be perishable, don't they? They kind of reverts back. So, and one of the things you can do is kind of up the ante on that a little bit. When you sack him, go ahead and run at him and get him so he's doing that and fairly fast at him, and then add the sack, add a garbage sack or something light colored, and when he's good with that, and you rub him with it, and then you back off, then up the stakes again. Hold that thing above your head and kind of wave it at him as you're coming at him.
Okay.
And that way, because that's going to make you seemingly bigger and more movement about it, so that this is something that's going to eat him. Well, he's got to realize it's not going to eat him. So yeah, you're exactly right. You're hitting those high points that you need to hit and kind of fix, and then you're good to go. And we'll have a smaller corral, and then we're gonna jump up a little bit more on some more of the training. We're gonna progress to where we were before, and then see how he acts up to that point.
Great.
Well, good job, Taryn. You're doing great, and I know sometimes you get to where you're like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? And if you're asking that question, that's the right thing that's happening with you. Because if you think you know it all, you're fooling yourself. I get the same way. It's like, boy, am I doing the right thing on this horse? It's better to do that than I see people go, this is what you always do. You need to do this no matter what. And it's like, well, okay, you're not very open in your approach here. So when you're a little bit uncomfortable and wondering if you're doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing. You're at least asking yourself the question, and you're evaluating yourself of what you can do better or what you should do differently to help him. So, okay. Good job. See that for yourself too.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, we will probably meet same time, same place next week, right?
Yep.
All right. We haven't had anybody on that has asked any questions, and maybe they're not there. Maybe they are not asking, but we're going to just go ahead and sign out today, and then we'll meet here next week.
Great. Well, thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, Taryn. Good job.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks.